With the nation embroiled in chaos, unrest, and division, if you are a lover of history, one cannot help but see the parallels between this campaign and the election of 1968. A ballot choice between instability and law and order. A Democratic convention in Chicago. A president rumored to step aside. Chaos on student campuses. A war bogging down the taxpayer. And the specter and trauma of assassination on a public stage. After the dust was settled, Richard Nixon and the GOP ticket won in 1968. And as our next guest likes to say, if past is prologue, November spells a victory for President Trump. Joining us now is the famous and infamous political operator, Roger Stone. Roger, it's such a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, it's great to be here. It's better to be infamous than never be famous at all.
It sounds like a Stoneism. Your take on the parallels here. There's so much happening that are just almost eerie politically. Your thoughts?
I think you made a very good case. I mean, first of all, you have Donald Trump with the greatest single political comeback since that of Richard Nixon. You have a Democrat Party deeply split by a foreign war, which has much greater consequences in their party than in our party. You have Trump running as the peace candidate, as Nixon ran in 1968. You have the repercussions of the assassination, which were still very much on the public mind in 1968. In fact, it was the murder of John F. Kennedy that breathed life back into the candidacy and the political career of Richard Nixon. You have many, many questions about the assassination. Too early to reach conclusions, but seemingly, very much like 1963 in Dallas, failures by the Secret Service. You have a Democrat Party not only divided, but with a weak candidate who may step down. I saw that Joe Biden was going to the LBJ library to make a statement. I'm not sure they understood the implications of that, LBJ having dropped out of that race. So I see many parallels, and of course, those parallels would lead to a Republican victory.
Well, Politico just reported that Congressman Adam Schiff, of all people, is calling for Biden to step aside. Is Schiff serving as Pelosi's mouthpiece at this point?
It appears that way. I mean, my understanding is that polling for both House and Senate Democrats are showing that both states and districts that were heretofore thought to be safe are now competitive. I think that the public support for Biden by Pelosi, by Chuck Schumer, by Hakeem Jeffries, by Barack Obama has been entirely disingenuous. I think they are moving furiously behind the scenes to try to change him out for a stronger, better candidate. Joe Biden is many things, but he's particularly stubborn, so I don't think that's going to be as easy as they may have thought. On the other hand, the entire political calculation for the country has changed entirely based on the events of Saturday. And then, of course, Donald Trump has chosen a 39-year-old running mate who represents a new generation, just as Eisenhower chose Nixon at age 39. I'm very happy with the selection of J.D. Vance. I mean, first of all, a distinguished military career serving his country in the Marine Corps in Iraq, but somebody who's an entrepreneur, someone who understands Silicon Valley and high tech, somebody who's 100% America first against the endless foreign wars, not a part of the Republican establishment. The left will try to make a big deal out of the fact that he made some comments critical of Donald Trump. Look, everybody who's for Donald Trump today was not for him in the beginning. We cannot win with just those who were for Donald Trump way back when. So I take the senator's selection as an excellent sign. He's completely copacetic with the America First agenda. I think he's going to be a major factor, particularly in the industrial Midwest. I think he has an appeal to working class, blue-collar Catholic voters, younger voters. I'm very pleased with his selection.
Well, before we dive into more of the Republican kind of convention side of things, I want your take. I mean, as a political operator, you've witnessed incredible moments in U.S. history, in presidential history, in political history. Where do you see the left going from here? It seems like not many people want to be a Democrat today.
I don't think they have very many options. Look, it is the vitriolic, hyperbolic, hateful, overheated rhetoric that all of them have engaged in, as well as their handmaidens in the mainstream media like MSNBC and CNN, that have created this atmosphere. No, it is not Donald Trump and his supporters. They have declared us deplorables, as Hillary Clinton says. So they've not only attacked Trump, but they've attacked Trump's supporters, vilifying us, demonizing us, the extremist MAGA Republicans. No, they're the extremists. They're the extremists that have no peace talks going on between Russia and China. They're the extremists who would allow abortion right up until the moment of birth, perhaps even after birth, if you listen to the former governor of Virginia. So if you're a Democrat, I don't know what your message would be. They were going to run on Trump's a convicted felon, January 6th. Right. Trump wants to take away your right to an abortion, and he's going to cut your Social Security. Those are all lies. They have no single positive message or theme to run on.
It's a pretty dark place for the Democrats to be, certainly. Now take us to the convention. You're there. You've been there for the past few days. When Trump walked out on stage, Roger, I know you've known this man for decades. He was at your wedding. You know him from a very personal standpoint. What did you see in Trump when he walked out on stage into the public eye for the first time since he was shot?
Well, first of all, we recognize we're breaking precedent. So normally the presidential candidate's not even seen at the convention until he or she shows up to accept the nomination. But I see a change in Donald Trump. I see a very definite change. I've spoken to him. He seems extremely calm. He seems, as always, extremely determined, persistent. But I see a new confidence in Trump. I think he understands his life has been spared for a very specific purpose. I think that he is totally at peace with his mission. And I saw resilience. I saw when he walked out there, it was a celebration. Now, I wrote a book on the Kennedy assassination. I remember all too well the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan. I had that same lump in my throat when I first heard that the president had been shot. I thank God for his survival. I've been very open about that. I think Donald Trump does too. The post he put out on Truth Social, acknowledging God's role in his survival and saying we must stand up to the wickedness. This is a watershed moment, in my opinion.
It's a watershed moment, I think, across the nation. I imagine there's going to be somewhat of a revival nationwide with the everyday American looking at just how close to death Trump came that day.
No, I agree. I think that we are, we've seen over the last year all of these extraordinary obstacles that appeared insurmountable fall away. The bogus Jack Smith investigations regarding documents and not insurrection, but supposedly interference with the presidential election. Fake electors. There's no such thing. I've read the Electoral College Act. John Kennedy had alternative electors in the 1960 election. We had them in 1877. They're a part of the process and the law. The bogus New York trial, which backfired spectacularly, solved part of the gigantic financial gap between the Democrats and the Republicans. The abusive mugshot and the Georgia trial that has been exposed as yet another fraud. A year ago, all of these things seemed insurmountable. So I see the hand of God in all of these things, as I do in the Supreme Court's immunity decision, in the sparing of Donald Trump's life on Saturday. No, I think, as Lincoln said, the question is not, is God on our side? The question is, are we on God's side?
No, beautifully put. The question I have for you from a historical standpoint is we know what happened to Nixon after his historic landslide victory in America. And the deep state wouldn't stop. They did not stop until they could take him completely down. And at this point, if you do ascribe to this idea that there is a deep state and it is going after the America First movement, it is going after Trump, then it seems they have already used all of the ammo and the playbook options that they've had in past. So what does the deep state, so-called, do next?
Well, first of all, you're right about Nixon and Watergate. Recently, declassified documents proved definitively the Central Intelligence Agency knew about the Watergate break-in in advance, infiltrated the burglar team in an effort to set Nixon up. He was removed because he was going to cut the power of the CIA. He was going to completely reorganize the national security apparatus to take it out of the hands of unelected bureaucrats. That's why they took him down. They tried to take Donald Trump down the same way in the Russian collusion hoax. But I think we've seen this movie. The point here is very clear. Should Trump be elected, he needs to clean house, or they'll be right back at it, inventing new scandals, a new basis to try to remove him. I think he understands that now. He was new to politics. He didn't really understand Washington when he got there in 2016. He thought, well, there's Republicans and Democrats. The Republicans are for me. The Democrats are against me. He never understood that there were deep elements in the Republican Party committed to removing him. He surely understands that now. You're going to see a whole sweeping change in Washington when Trump and J.D. Vance get elected.
He's certainly seen the underbelly.
All right,
Roger Stone, a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up.